everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2, and today, the time has finally come. This past week, if you've been anywhere in the Division 2 community, I'm sure that you have seen the conversations going around about prototype gear. I've already got a handful of videos about it here on the channel if you don't know and you want to go catch up. But whether you're for or against it, there have been many arguments made on both sides and suggestions on how to improve the experience before the season launch. And so, just a few minutes ago, we received the PTS developer notes where the devs are coming in, letting us know what they thought about the feedback they received and what changes are going to be made. And so let's jump right in and see what they had to say. If you enjoyed this one and you want to catch more coverage for Year 8 Season 1, which is right around the corner, then be sure to subscribe. A big shout out and thank you to our channel members. As I say every single time, your support means more than you know. Thank you for everything that you do, but let's get to it. Okay, here we are. As you can see, it says Year 8 Season 1 PTS Developer Notes. We're going to go through this entire thing because I think the context here and the nuance is important, but strap in. We got a lot to read. It says, "Hello agents, we're almost ready for Year 8, and we would like to thank everyone who joined our Year 8 Season 1 Rise Up PTS last weekend. We noticed a significant increase in the number of participant players, and thanks to that, we now have a higher amount of data to analyze and much more feedback to read. Thank you for taking the time to play it and engaging in discussions about it. We have a very packed season ahead, and this PTS was essential to polish the experience and start iterating on long-term features. Here you can find the changes we're making to the game for the launch version that you will be able to play next week." So here we go, Escalation and Prototype Gear. We've carefully read the conversations about Prototype Gear and we've decided to make adjustments based on your feedback. The idea of reducing expertise costs has been present since the early conversations about Prototype Gear. Unfortunately, those changes did not make it in time for the PTS and reinforce the sentiment that the max expertise requirements for upgrading to Prototype Gear were too high. We heard your feedback, and although Prototype Gear is made to be rare, our PTS version of how you could upgrade or acquire was not reflective of our real intentions for the season's launch. For this reason, we have decided to increase the drop rates for Escalation and move forward with our plan to reduce the expertise material costs. So, right off the bat, across the board, the two different sources of acquiring Prototype Gear, which is upgrading your current items and farming it in Escalation, both are being made easier with lower expertise costs to get to level 30 and higher drop rates within Escalation. But let's keep reading. Another aspect that didn't make it in the PTS and won't be available at the season launch as well is targeted loot. We are exploring some sort of daily targeted loot rotation to arrive soon, but the packed season brought challenges to its implementation and we had to save it for a future update. We hope that, even when it arrives, we can give players more control over their experience and better reward your time and effort." So, this is along the lines of what I was thinking, that if you made self-selected targeted loot, much like Countdown or Summit, that would just make the prototype grind too quick and not meaningful enough. But they do say that they're exploring adding some sort of daily rotation to Escalation, but it will not be there at season launch. So if you do not want to put in that extra amount of time and try and cut through the RNG on your own, it could be worth waiting until this is implemented to start doing that. But they do say that it is coming for a future update. Down here, they say, "We also heard the community feedback about recalibration, and we will start to explore options to address this feedback in the future. However, as it was not a part of the original design to have it with Prototype Gear, we don't have a timeline for that just yet." Okay, again, while the no timeline for it isn't ideal, I think this is good that they're going to look into adding recalibration. I think this answers a lot of the concerns that people had about stuff like the inability to reroll talents on prototype items, the inability to switch cores on more off-meta or hybrid builds. So hopefully we don't have to wait too long for that to come in, but that should hopefully alleviate a lot of those things. Then they say, "Finally, following discussions about the value of raids and incursions after the new exotic blueprints were added to Black Tusk Retaliation, we've decided to add a new reward to them directly connected to our endgame expansion, Prototype Core Caches. This cache will be a guaranteed reward for completing Operation Iron Horse, Operation Dark Hours, and Paradise Lost, dropping 2 prototype cores. We hope that this can bring more reasons to play those experiences while we don't add new exclusive rewards. Prototype cores can be used for both upgrading from normal gear to prototype and to level up or reroll augments, so we hope it can grant more resources to veterans looking to craft their prototype gear build." I did not expect to see them add in something like this, but I think this is a pretty smart solution to help address a few different feedback points. As they mention here, the value of doing raids and incursions since they're adding the blueprints to Black Tusk Retaliations is going to be lowered as of this update, so we will now have another exclusive or at least incentive to go and do it, right, to get the prototype core caches. Also, given the relatively low drop rates of prototypes within Escalation, I'm sure even after this increase, it's good to expand the ways that we can get prototype cores, since they say here they are required to upgrade and reroll the augments. The upgrading point is a little weird though. I thought the patch note specified that even though the PTS had a cost, it was going to be free. I guess that's not the case. So right when the season launches, you actually will not be able to automatically upgrade Expertise 30 pieces. You are going to have to get a few proto cores first. But again, if you are a proficient endgame player, which is who these are aimed at, then you can go and do the 2 raids or the incursion and get some of those cores. Moving on, they then say prototype gear is designed to push the current endgame further, not replace it, serving as an additional layer for our most dedicated veterans. This system is meant to offer new challenges and rare rewards while giving you something fresh to pursue after 7 years of content. We are committed to continuing to iterate on it, and the main reason why we're implementing it during the beginning of year 8 is to have time to polish the best version of it throughout the year. Please keep sharing your thoughts with us as we will continue to listen to them closely. We are confident in our proposition, but also open to adjusting the route with your valuable feedback. Okay, before we get to my thoughts on it, let's take a look at the actual values that have been changed. They say substantially increase the prototype gear drop rates in Escalation. I guess we don't have any values on that, but that's what they say. Reduce the cost for expertise upgrades. So exotic component requirements are down by 50%, whereas every other material is down 20%. So this is a huge deal, especially if you are currently grinding out materials or trying to level up your proficiency and expertise in anticipation of the new update. Be sure to not actually upgrade your pieces until Year 8 Season 1 goes live, because when it does, next week, these leveling requirements are going to be 50% less for exotic components, and again, 20% less for everything else. So I think that takes, what, exotic components you had to put in like 90? For a piece to get to expertise 30, that should now be 45. Yeah, that's a pretty substantial change. So again, be sure to not upgrade now, wait for the season to launch. They also say here they've removed the requirement to have fully optimized gear when upgrading the prototype. I don't know how much that will actually change the grinder preparation much, but there you go. They also say they've increased the chance for the 3rd attribute to be maxed out when upgrading to prototype gear. So upgrading itself is going to be much more viable now with the cost reduction changes, the fact that you don't have to have it optimized, and that the 3rd stat has a greater chance to be maxed out. They clarify here what was not in the PTS, but what we discussed in my last video talking about it, that prototype gear is going to be normalized in raids, incursions, and PvP modes, so Dark Zone and Conflict. In those content pieces, the augments are going to be completely disabled, and the stats on prototype will be set to their lowest number, which again is the maximum for our current gear. And then, like we talked about, they added the prototype cores cache as a reward for raids and incursions, which grants you 2 each. And then finally, they lay out their additions planned for the future, which include daily targeted loot in Escalation and prototype gear recalibration or equivalent. Okay, well, there you go. We have some more stuff that we'll cover in a moment, but that is all of the changes and thoughts that they have regarding prototype gear and the community's response. Personally, I think this was the exact right direction to take, making the upgrade path not quite as grindy by lowering the costs and making the restrictions not as bad, enhancing people's ability to farm and use the items that they're getting from Escalation. I would say the definite downside is that they note that the 2 big things that are going to help with that will not be at season launch. That includes the targeted loot that's going to arrive soon, but it won't be there next week, and the fact that they don't have a timeline for implementing recalibration. So if you were somebody who is more on the fence about prototype gear overall, you might want to wait a little bit before diving into the grind for it, specifically given that these implementations will not be there at launch. But I stand by what I've thought since they first announced prototype gear, that it is designed to push the current endgame further, not replace it. It's an additional layer for the most dedicated veterans. I know a lot of people are against the idea of having greater RNG loot to chase, that they want the current system to stay as it is, where you can get stuff quite easily and then invest into it over time. But really, I just think a lot of people underestimate how many players out there want exciting loot to chase in a looter shooter. Right? We love the Division 2. That's all why we're here. But for people who jump on and want a replacement for their favorite looter game, Destiny or Warframe or whatever, if you can play a few runs of Countdown, get a striker build, and then take on the majority of heroic content, again in just like 1 day's time in the endgame, that doesn't leave much room for aspiration, for goals. I hope what Prototype achieves is what they say right here, that this system system is meant to offer new challenges and rare rewards while giving you something fresh to pursue after 7 years of content. I continue to play the game because I love it, but again, I don't really have anything I'm chasing. I play it for the fun of it, not because of the progression of the game. So how many other people are out there who enjoy the game, maybe don't share the same absolute love of the Division IP like I do, and they just don't stick around very long because again, there is nothing exciting to chase. So there you go. I'm sure not everybody is going to be satisfied with what they have chosen to do here in the direction they are going, but I hope, as the team says, that over the course of year 8 they will have time to polish it more, and that they do say that they're open to adjusting the routes with feedback. So again, I encourage, as always, people to leave their thoughts on this, even more so once the season goes live and we can see all the changes in action, and we will see where things go from here. We have a little bit more to go through though, not related to prototype and escalation, so let's talk about seasonal gear and the seasonal modifiers. They wrote, the PTS provided enough data for us to identify a possible issue with the way players would level up their active modifiers and craft their modifier builds. In some scenarios, people could get more stacks than intended by ignoring some active modifiers and intentionally not leveling them up, which was changed and fixed with this new version. And then unrelated to modifiers, they say for the inner core chest piece, which is on the new gear set, we buffed it by a little bit to be in line with the current meta and keep it a viable and relevant option for the community. So, changes made for Year 8 Season 1 release. For the new gear set, which is called Core Strength, the chest piece talent previously enhanced the talent ability from 40 to 60%, but that's now going up to 75%. That's actually kind of wild. I'm really looking forward to theory crafting with this thing. The fact that you could run an armor core and still get, what is that, like 12% weapon damage? There's a chance that this gear set is going to be crazy viable. We'll see. And then for the modifiers, they say they adjusted the initial number of stacks per module from 10 to 8. They adjusted the progression of active modifiers to 1 stack per level gained, but then each level that you gain grants 1 stack to offense, defense, and utility at the same time. And so in total, players can now get 12 more stacks by leveling up all 3 active modifiers, reaching 20 in total. But that is the last that we have of it here, and those are the entirety of the dev notes for the Year 8 Season 1 PTS. So, now we know. The devs have seen the feedback from the PTS, they've decided on the direction for the season launch. I will be very curious to see people's thoughts on their response to, specifically, of course, the prototype gear conversation. Again, as a player first, that is always where my feedback comes from foremost. I'm really excited to have something worthwhile to chase again, but also, at the same time, I heard people's concerns. I really hope that those who were more skeptical of the system like the direction that was announced here. We'll see. As always, good or bad, continue leaving your feedback for the team to be able to analyze, but with this, we now march on towards launch. We have just about a week to go. So, once again, let me know your thoughts. Please keep it civil as per usual. I will see you back very soon with more Division, but until then, my friends, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And